Welcome back to part 2 of our unexpected art interview with Echo Chernik.
Yeah, you gotta get creative with it. Beth say that is a pretty great solution.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to Italy on Monday for Luca for the first time, so that's exciting. So, haven't had a chance to go to Europe at all too much. So, they invited me to be a guest in 2016, but it was hard because the kids were not the right age for that. But now that they're older, I can go. So excited to go to Italy. And then I booked a little show in Germany too, so I could spend a little more extra time there. Go see some stuff, maybe do some drawing and stuff. So it'll be awesome.
That's super cool. So fun fact, while you're in Germany, you might be able to see some art that was done by I think she's my 4 times great aunt.
Oh, wow. What kind of work does she do?
Abstract. Her name is Sophie Teuber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool. I'm going to have to keep an eye out. Yeah, I'll be in Munich mostly, so that'll be really fun.
From your work in advertising, what were some unexpected things that you discovered getting into working as an illustrator in the advertising industry, creating advertisements? That's a bit better phrasing of what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what unexpected.
Maybe things that a lot of people don't talk about or maybe don't know about for anyone looking to get into it or to help people understand.
Deadlines are definitely usually shorter in advertising than in like book publishing. Book publishing sort of has a schedule set. Advertising deadlines are usually kind of crazy. I mean, I had to do a Procter & Gamble poster once. They gave me like the weekend. Like if I called me on Friday and they're like, we got this huge poster of like a circus, the lion tamer with his head in the lion's mouth, because one of our big clients just won the big award and we want to present it to them on Monday. And I'm just like, oh. So a lot of times their deadlines are really, really short. You also do a lot of, or used to before AI, I used to do a lot of work that was just never really made it out there because they do it for presentation. So I'd get hired for stuff that I did some stuff for McDonald's for like Happy Meals and stuff. And they would do it along with a whole bunch of other people. And they just present it, and it didn't mean that it wasn't good. It's just, they would figure out what direction they wanted to go in based on the art that they got in. So I've done a couple Monopoly boards the same way. Like I did like a big fancy pants. It was like, I forgot what it's called. It was like the deluxe Art Deco looking Monopoly board. It looked great, but but I don't know what direction they went in. Sometimes they don't even go in a direction. So a lot of the times you do this really great stuff that never gets seen, which is like, oh, because you don't want to show it to everyone. I guess there's a lot of work that you do that never makes it onto the shelves. Or sometimes they change it and then publish it and you're like, ooh, you changed it. Ooh. So a lot of times it gets, when you're working with the big companies and stuff, they modify things. Each project is so different.
So it's a lot of work, might not see the light of day, but depending on the company, it still can pay well.
Oh yeah, it still pays good. And it can get, if you have permission to put in your portfolio, it can get you other work as well, which is good. And you're always learning something. Each project that you do, you have to, like I said, solve the problems of what that particular project brings, and so you're learning things. So that a lot of that comes back to help you later on, because for instance, I'll do some Art Deco patterns that never got used, and they sort of just got shipped. It might be like 10 years later, I'll be like, oh, I need some Art Deco patterns. Oh yeah, that's right, I never used these. So I can pull them out and kind of rework them to get them to work or get inspiration from them, because I put a lot of time into them and they look great. They just didn't use them, which means I'm able to use them later on. More parts of them, or just remember what I did. I pulled them out so I can remember what I did that I liked and then improve upon it. Licensing is a good thing to understand if you want to get into illustration. If you do work for a client, generally they're in the advertising world. They're just buying one-time licensing work. Like I did a Color Your Own Tarot deck for Penguin book publishers, I think, like 20 years ago or so, based on the Rider-Waite Tarot. And it didn't pay great, but it paid. It was fine. It was early on, and it came out great. But then like 10 years later, there was a big resurgence in people wanting to do adult coloring books and stuff. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I have that tarot deck I did. And so I still had the rights to it because they only wanted one-time publishing rights to it. So I owned the copyrights to it. So I went ahead and did a Kickstarter and republished it. And then we sold tons of decks that I didn't have to really do a lot of work on. I just did like a new cover for them because I already owned the copyrights. And then after that, I licensed them to the US Games, the tarot place, because they contacted me that they wanted to be able to have the right to make their own decks of it. So they actually bought the copyrights to it after that. So I've been able to use the same design like 3 times. So there's more than one way to get paid for work that you've done.
Yep, you just have to read over the the fine print and the agreements carefully.
Oh yeah. And definitely don't do like work for hire contracts unless you're getting paid enough to do them. Work for hire means that you're basically signing, by the letter of the law, you're signing away authorship. For instance, like Disney does work for hire because they want the illusion that Walt Disney is penning everything from beyond the grave. So there's, now they've opened up and they have individual artists doing things and they're in their art styles. But before, everything had to be just this faceless artist. And that's why they're all work for hire. So if you get a work for hire contract and you still want to go through with it, you have to modify it so that it says that you have the right to use it in your portfolio. You have the right to say you did it, because if it just says work for hire, you don't actually have the right to say you actually did the work, because technically they did the work according to the contract. That's what the words mean. So you have to counteract the work for hire verbiage by saying that you have the right to put your name on it, that they'll give you credit. If you're going to make prints, you can put that in there too. Anything that that adds on and gives you specific rights to do things, that you can put in the contract, and that's legally binding. So
that's why it's helpful to have someone who actually knows what the verbiage means.
Yeah, and work for hire should pay. There's like the base cost of an illustration, and then say the base cost for an illustration is like $5,000. If they want full copyrights, it should be like 200% of the base cost. So they should be paying about $10,000 for the copyrights. And then work for hire should be even more than that, because basically you're giving away the right to say you illustrated it. So I think the Graphic Artists Guide to Pricing and Ethical Guidelines is a really good book that lays out the percentages in there as to what you should be getting paid. The latest I read on work for hire was like 250 to something 400 or something percent, but that was a couple of years ago. So I think they change it every year, so it's an annual. But you should definitely pick up that book and go through the pricing lists.
Yeah, gotta make sure you're getting paid what your work is worth. If you let people underpay you, then they'll start to think they can underpay other people.
Yeah, that's where a lot of AI has caused a lot of problems, because people are like, well, I can just type it in and do it for free, so why would I bother paying anybody? But if they use AI, they can't copyright it. So
exactly,
which is good.
I like to explain that if someone writes a book using AI and then does the cover art using AI, I can take that whole thing, publish it myself. They can't do a thing about it. Cannot copyright things created by AI. AI is probably ripping off many, many, many people, especially if it's an AI created by a corporation. I think there's potential for AI to be a useful tool, but using it to generate or replace paying someone to do something that they're good at, that ain't cool.
Right now it's built, so the models are all built on theft. Mm-hmm. They scraped like my art along with lots of other people's art. I mean, if they actually had a model that was built consensually, where they got the artist's permission and paid them and then built the model on that, then I think that would be able to be used ethically. But right now it's just not at that point. I would love to use it for some things. I think it has certain uses, but it's also a really slippery slope, because once you start generating stuff, it looks good enough to a lot of people, unfortunately, but it's not, because our artists will be like, you can see that it's not any good. Like, I've generated some stuff just to see how it works and stuff, and I'm like, wow, it looks really cool. And then I look at it closer, I'm like, oh, but this is wrong, and that's wrong, and this doesn't look good. And,
this person has an extra arm. Why does this person have so many teeth? Those eyes are wrong.
But even then, compositionally, it's boring. It's just bleh. I mean, it doesn't have the depth in it. that artists can put into it. I mean, generally when you create a painting or a piece of art, you have a reason for everything you placed and why you place things there and why there are, different shadows. Like I have my Sleeping Beauty piece is basically, it's a nude woman that's just like laid out on a bed. Sorry, this is Snow White. She's like laid out on a bed and she's very, very pale, of course, with dark hair. And there's a board that has carved dwarves in it in like style of like the cuckoo clocks from like the Black Forest and stuff, because I wanted to harken to that area. And then there's a pillow that's got the flowers that in the story, her mother had, I forgot, there's something to do with those little white flowers. There's like these there's flowers, and then she like dripped 3 drops of blood on the snow and wished for her daughter to have black hair and pale skin and red lips or something like that. I don't remember the story exactly, but
yeah, she picked a white rose or something and like pricked her finger on a thorn.
No, they weren't roses. They were the sort of like the mountain laurel-y flowers. But anyway, but then I have like a shadow of the window. She's like laying on the bed, but there's a window that's near, but you can see just the shadow of the lines of the panes of the glass that are going like across her body. And the bars of the window actually represent bars of her being like locked in, like when she's, like the locked in syndrome, that she's like asleep, but she's still alive and she can't react. So that's like, but that's all like symbolic and stuff. And AI can't come up with that symbolic stuff. It doesn't understand that. It's like, it was like Snow White laying on bed. It'll just do that. It can't make all those little tiny decisions, like where to put the 3 drops of blood and where to put the flowers and the shadows that represent her, being locked in and stuff like that. It can't think of those things.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've never thought about the locked in syndrome aspect, because in the original fairy tale, some dude is having her coffin carried away and someone like drops it and that dislodges the piece of apple. So she was alive, just unconscious. But I'm like, that's what the locked in syndrome, I kind of want to do something with that in a book now.
So it's symbolic, but I like that, because I put that, there's just really fine, shadows on there. I mean, most people don't even notice it until they do, and they're like, wait a minute. But AI can't do that. But for most people, they just see AR and it's like fast food. It's good enough. It's good enough, and that's really hurting artists a lot. So hopefully it'll continue to stay out of favor. So
hopefully. That's kind of affected your work in the advertising space. How have things been over in the ttrpg side of things, in the working with game books?
A lot of the game books Catalyst, especially, they said no AI, absolutely no AI. I haven't really worked with too many other RPG companies. I usually just work with Catalyst lately. And, like Hasbro and Monopoly are just like, they just no AI, they just don't allow it at all. I'm the coordinating judge for the Illustrators of the Future contest. So we had to make a decision about the entries, if we allow AI as reference or at all, because sometimes people are like, oh, I just used it as reference and painted over it. And ultimately we decided that it's not allowed even for reference, just shoot your own reference. And a lot of the game companies seem to be about the same from what, well, I can really only speak for Catalyst because I've talked to them. But from what other artists have said, a lot of the game companies are like that. I don't know the state of, I think they allow AI at all. There was some problems with artists that were using AI and then they were called out. I remember there was that Larcana artist not too long ago who got called out.
With what I know about the ttrpg community, I will admit most of it is on the player side, but I do know some people who work on the creator side as well. That ain't gonna fly. The only AI I want is a fictional character in my sci-fi game. Thank you very much.
Because some people are like, well, you can use it for reference. And I'm like, just stay away
Google.
From it. Well, no, that's not even safe nowadays. You have to go in and you have to shut off the AI preferences because you'll get Google AI images that are fake. And I noticed that I have a problem catching it sometimes. And I think that might have to do with my face blindness. Like I have face blindness. I have a hard time recognizing people. It just, they go that. The face blindness, the prosopagnosia, has something to do with the mathematical definitions between the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And so I have a terrible time recognizing people, and I can't picture their faces, and I can't picture animals' faces as well. So I don't work out of, I have to use reference. I can't draw out of my brain very well because while I can envision and imagine things in incredible detail, I can't see faces at all, which is really weird. But I noticed it also impedes my ability to recognize AI. My kids will be like, "That's AI, Mom." And I'm like, "No, it's not." And they're like, "Yes, it is. Can't you see?" And I'm like, I can't always spot it.
In the last interview that I did, I was talking to Laura D'Souza, who has done caricature art. If you don't want to talk about this, that's fine, but does your propopagnosia, does that affect your ability to recognize faces when it comes to caricature art, where the different parts of the faces are exaggerated?
Depends. You mean like characters, like caricatures of people, like famous people and stuff?
Yeah.
It depends on what my brain is cued in on. Usually like my brain will sort of like cue in on like a certain part of somebody's features, or it could not even be their features. It could be the way they hold their head. I used to game with a guy. We gamed like every Thursday and Friday night for like 2 years, and all I remember about how he looks is like the bottom part of his goatee right here. And it's like I can't pick what I remember. It's just that part remember. So if you change that part, I don't recognize them as easily. So if the caricature is called out the part that I recognize from that person, then yes, I'll be able to recognize them. Some people look like other people to me, like some actors. I can't tell them apart. The guy that, I can't remember his name, the guy who plays Loki, what's his name?
Tom Hiddleston?
Hiddleston, yeah. So when I look at pictures of Loki and I look at pictures of Tom Hiddleston, I know that that's the same person, okay? But it's like I'm trying to convince my brain of it, because I'll be like, okay, look at his nose and his face and his chin. That's the same person. My brain will be like, and then I'll look back and then it'll be like, no, it's not. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then my brain's like, nope, not the same person. I'm like, no, that's the same person. I'm like arguing with my head. My brain refuses to acknowledge that is the same person, no matter how much I rationalize it. It's just so weird how that works. But
that is kind of fascinating.
Then there's certain people that are friends of mine and stuff, that will, certain percentage of people that it'll trigger in my brain as like a famous person. Like there's a friend of mine that he's got these like wrinkles here, and to me he imprints as Tommy Lee Jones. He just, to me, looks like Tommy Lee Jones. It's just because he's got these little wrinkles here. So sometimes it's weird who it imprints as, but that's how I remember people. So it definitely affects my art. So I have to use a lot of reference, and I can't really do, like my daughter can do like cartoon characters and stuff. I can't do that because I can't do the different angles very easily. I have to shoot reference for like every angle. In which case, I would love to say that AR would be a great help with that sometime down the line, because I'd be like, all right, well, I need to see a 3/4 view. I need to see this view. I need to see that view. But I refuse to use it now until it's, it's gotten to that point. I just shoot my own reference, and I don't even trust the online Google reference as much anymore. I just try to find the reference myself if I can, including like if I need an animal, I'll just go to the zoo. Or you can also buy reference that's, from different sites as too. I've bought reference, which is good. But I have like lots of things lying around that I'll make reference, or I have a gift shop here in my gallery. And so if I need to buy something specific, like I had to buy an Aztec calendar once to shoot reference from the right angle. So I bought that round Aztec stone calendar, shot my reference, and I just sell it in the gift shop when I'm done.
I mean, that's one way to do it. What are some good resources that have helped you for finding references and not letting your face blindness impact your art?
I use models a lot. I'll actually hire models and shoot all the reference that I need. Usually when I hire a model, I'll start with the project I hired them for, shoot those pictures first, and then I'll do a bunch of different fun shots that just work well with whoever they are, because everybody has a certain way that they pose, that they look good. And so we'll just have like a fun time. And then at the end, I'll go back and I'll shoot the original pictures I needed again once they're all loosened up and stuff. And so I end up with a pretty big library of reference that I've shot over the years. When I have to do like a likeness, I have to double check it with everybody. I had to do a painting of Orville Redenbacher once for the redesign for the packaging. And it's like, oh, this is going to be a challenge. So I did like some paintings of Orville Redenbacher, and then I had to ask people, who's this? Who does this look like to you? Just to make sure, because sometimes if it looks like the person, I think it looks like the person. So I struggle a little bit with likenesses when it comes to like portraits of people and stuff. I describe it more like I paint sort of more how they feel. I have to get that feeling right of how they feel. I had to feel like Orville Redenbacher, and I had to feel like the person I'm painting, because it can look like them, but if it doesn't feel like them, it's not right. So, and it's a weird way to describe it. So it's not as esoteric as it sounds.
I find it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because you can paint the way somebody looks, and it could just be like hollow and not feel like them. I did a wedding portrait. The in-laws wanted me to make this couple, and they wanted them in like Shadowrun wear, in this like desolate sort of futuristic apocalyptic Seattle landscape and everything. And so I only had pictures of them, in order to go by. I haven't met them at all, which is always difficult. But when I did and the bride was a little bit rounder. I mean, not like she wasn't round. She was built like me, really. I mean, she's a little bit just more busty and a little bit more, and I didn't, when I was putting her in an outfit, I wanted to make sure that I fit her in something that I would want to wear. I'm like, well, all right, she's got a little more bust and a little more hips, and I'm not going to make her skinny. I'm not going to make her look wrong, because that's not going to be her. So, but I want to give her a waist, because that's what I would want to wear. So I gave her this really cool outfit with, you could really see her waist, and the light really made it so you could see her waist, but you could still tell she was still her. And then I noticed in her wedding photo, she kind of just had her hair pulled back in a ponytail. So I'm like, all right, she's a plain hair person. If she doesn't even like do like the big poofy hair for her wedding, she does it really plain. So I gave her like, I think, a helmet with very plain hair that went with it. And her mother-in-law's like, God, that's totally feels like her. That's exactly how she would wear her hair. She would love this outfit. I'm like, you got to think like the character. You can't just, I couldn't idealize her, because that would be weird. I mean, if she saw a picture of herself where she looked super skinny or something, that's not gonna be her. It's not gonna be a portrait. It's not gonna feel right. And her husband, he had a goofy smile. I mean, they described him as having a goofy smile. So I had one picture, the first painting I did of him, it didn't look right. It didn't feel right, because he wasn't goofy. They had to send me more goofy smile pictures so I could get the right grin. That was his personality. So
grins can be very specific to the individual. My uncle Stan has two different grins. He has the cheesing it grin. That's when someone's taking a picture of him and he has to smile, but he doesn't really mean it.
You've been listening to an unexpected art interview with Echo Chernik. You can find her work at echo-x.com. Stay tuned for the rest of our interview. If you like what we're doing, you can follow us on social media and join the conversation over at An Unexpected Art Lesson on Threads, Blue Sky, and Substack. And you can also support us over on Patreon. Get early access to episodes and other fun things at patreon.com/anunexpectedartlesson.